technology.
They are unfollowing. All the leaders have been unfollowed. Right now, Ruto has like less than 2 million followers on his Twitter account.
All right, since we are going live, we can, where is my Zoom?
Edit ourselves. We can edit ourselves.
Yeah.
So are we ready to go?
Yes,
Yes.
Daktari, welcome. We missed you last week.
We are here. We are here. Now, how are you, Daktari? Are you here?
I'm well, and just beginning up my day this side and wishing you well.
I don't know why I sound a worried person. I don't know. I have a sense of worry in me this evening.
Please don't be worried. All is well, Daktari.
I don't know. I have, by the way, Daktari Taro, I have a sense of worry.
Yes.
Since I missed class last week and we are beginning today, like there is a sense of worry cropping up in me, but I don't know why. Maybe that's
No,
the teacher.
there is no problem. We'll always find time for replacement. Should you need any time? I thought you were worried about Gen Z. But,
No. Right.
Yeah, but
so
this one just continue. When you need extra time, we'll find time.
No, we'll manage. I have this character. When I teach, I normally don't ask for makeups. There is a way we work on pedagogy to keep us moving. Now,
Ellen wants to cause panic anxiety here, 6 a.m. tomorrow. Ellen.
No, forget about that. Now, before we begin with the reflection, I want to request all members of the class present, in case you are lined up for presenting anything, I would like you raise your hand up so that you are made a co-host in case you have something to share. Could we begin by that?
Yes.
Yes, although I notice the class is very thin, 2830 is quite thin.
You are coming.
I'll make one of them your host so that they can be adding others.
How about if a group wants to present together?
Maybe the best thing would be we make all of. No. What? Not all.
There's no problem. Actually, when it comes to sharing, Prof, you shouldn't worry. Anyone can share.
Anyone can share a screen.
Yeah, whether they are co-host or not, they can share.
Okay, then that's better. Then
as long as they share this, they share the class presentations and nothing more than that.
All right. And then that is good. So and then we before we get to the class formally, we make some preliminaries. The first preliminary is that we are aware today we are having class presentations. We are having 3 tasks that we are attending to. I summarized this in the message that I passed across on our platform, that today we are having class presentations. We have 3 tasks to make our presentations on. And we did indicate that during these class presentations, every group that is having a given task is free to organize its own model of presentation. Some groups could have organized that they have one package and they have, as it were, elected one person to make the presentation. Other groups may want to take it in turns, that so-and-so is presenting this aspect, the other one is presenting this aspect, and so forth. We did indicate that we'll have about 25 minutes or so. In the interest of time, would be glad if a group brought it down. And then further to that, we did indicate that after your presentation, the best thing to remedy time, I would urge everybody during the presentation to take notes of what you are hearing. Just take notes so that we have the presentation flowing uninterrupted. Take notes when a presentation is going on so that we move from task 1, task 2 to task 3. And then we get back to task 1 and we raise issues. When we are raising those issues, we are not raising them to the person who made the presentation. We are raising them to the group members. Therefore, we will feel free to invite any of the group members to respond to the issues that will be being raised. After those issues have been raised, or rather during the time that those issues are being raised, we encourage the group members to take notes also. This is the learning model. So that after that, you sit down, look at what you had prepared, and then be able to look at it and perhaps add something of value to your written work. Then thereafter, submit that work for evaluation. That's why I would say I must have seen some work come to me. I want to believe it was just for noting, because then it cannot be a submission because it has not gained from class discussion. Anybody who would like to ask for any clarification before we begin?
Prof, just a quick one. Will the presentation be, the final submission be individual or group?
No, it is still group because it is that work that you've made.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Josephine?
Thank you, Prof. Okay, we are the people that our group presented to you our work.
Yes. Yes.
Though we will present next week. Huh?
All right.
So
I noticed that.
Maybe it is just a request that maybe the online Duo online portal is opened for us to submit. Thank you.
Noted. Any other clarification on the issues I've raised in terms of the procedure that we are going to have this evening? Any other clarification? Anybody in need of clarification? All right. Oh, no, I've seen a hand. I don't know whose hand is that.
It's mine, Florence.
Yes, Florence, please.
How much time are you allocating so that we just don't go, overboard and we?
Yes, I've already addressed that. We had said 25. We had said in my communication 25 per group, but we think we could do slightly less. Now, in that regard, Florence, still on the online, can you be our timekeeper just to be able to say time is over during the presentation, or just to be able to say?
I don't know what will happen when it comes to my group, but I will say I will.
Are you the one presenting?
The second task, 3.2. I'm
the one presenting.
I'm presenting a part of that task, the beginning.
Right, so you cannot be the one presenting. I mean, you cannot be the timekeeper.
I can help.
Now,
may I be the timekeeper?
Who is the timekeeper? Jimmy? Or who?
Yes.
Jimmy, you'll be the timekeeper. So be able to work within about 20 minutes to 25, so that you'll be able to remind and the sound something like, don't write, nobody will be reading the charts perhaps, but just be able to voice 5 minutes more. 5 minutes more.
Noted.
Yes. So I think that's okay, Jimmy. You are timekeeping for us. Now, with the housekeeping matters, are we done, or anybody would like to raise a housekeeping matter? Seemingly, we are done. Jimmy's hand is up, but I think it's for decoration of the class. Yes. So, let's now see. How to begin. Right. Okay. I think my screen is with you. Correct?
Yes.
Scroll up, Mwalimu.
No, I don't know what has happened to this screen now. Yes,
Your
that's better,
screen
I
is
think.
with us.
Yes. All right. So, dear friends, we are gathered here having missed out on last week. We are gathered here to advance discussions on the third topic, actually the last part of the third topic, where we're looking at the specific policy infrastructure on technology and education. Last week, we looked at the general orientation, the general status of policy infrastructure on technology in education. Today, we look at very specific policy infrastructure on this question of ICTs in education. For our reflection this evening, I chose that we reflect on something about AI, artificial intelligence. We make a reflection on artificial intelligence, AI. The letter of St. Paul to the Colossians, the third chapter of this letter, the 23rd verse. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as though working for the Lord, not for human masters. Can somebody take us through the reflective readings?
Yes.
Yes. Sanya? Did I hear your voice, Sanya?
It was Silvanus.
That was Silvanus.
Silvanus,
Yes.
continue, Silvanus, sorry.
Oh, so the first one, Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for humans. So reflection by Eliezer Gonzalez. In our rapidly advancing world, artificial intelligence has emerged as a transformative force, bringing both benefits and challenges to society. As Christians, it is important to reflect on the implications of AI through the lens of our faith. Considering the pros and cons of AI from a Christian perspective allows us to navigate its impact with the wisdom and discernment. AI technology has the capacity to enhance medical diagnosis, advance patient care, and contribute to the development of life-saving treatments. Christians value the sanctity of life and can appreciate the potential AI holds for preserving and improving it. AI can also automate repetitive tasks, freeing up human energy and time for more meaningful pursuits. This increased efficiency aligns with the Christian calling to steward our resources wisely and use our talents to their fullest potential. However, AI raises ethical questions surrounding privacy, data security, and decision-making process. As Christians, we are called to protect the dignity and rights of individuals, ensuring fairness and justice in the use of AI technologies. Excessive reliance on AI can also lead to a devaluation of human interaction, empathy, and compassion. Christians are called to love our neighbors as ourselves, and we must caution not to replace genuine human relationship and care with technology. It is important to reflect on the implications of AI through the lens of our faith. From a Christian perspective, the discussion surrounding the emergence of AI in our society demands our attention and careful consideration. While AI holds tremendous potential in improving healthcare and increasing productivity, we must approach its deployment with ethical discernment. by upholding human dignity, safeguarding privacy, and remaining mindful of the potential risks of dehumanization, we can contribute to the responsible and compassionate development of AI. In this discussion, let us be guided by our faith to ensure that AI take it up, please. Sorry.
No, like us to reach there.
Oh, imeisha. That AI technology, sijui mbona mimi yangu sioni. Peleka juu kidogo.
No.
There's a sentence that is not complete. Yeah, so in this discussion, let us be guided by our faith to ensure that AI technologies align with our value and promote the common good for all. Thank you.
Right. I deliberately blocked the other section because I would like a different person to begin the following section, which is not in color. Now, somebody to begin the following section, please.
Hello. It is Elizas Gonzalez here. He is the real me. But everything you have just read up to this point in this blog was written. May I begin again? This is the real me, but everything you have just read up to this point in this blog was written by an AI bot. It sounds okay, doesn't it? But there is something very important missing, and it is something that a robot will never be able to replace: humanity. Humanity is so vitally important that God himself became human in order to relate fully with his creation. God could have sent a hologram of himself down to earth to let humanity know what he was like. He could have come himself entirely in his divine nature. That will really be impressive. Human beings are highly exalted in the creation of this world, but that is not what God did. He became a human, called the incarnation, and was born as we are born, to live as we live and to experience what we experience. The book of Hebrews puts it like this. Move it up a bit, Daktari. Thank you. We also know that the Son did not come to help angels. He came to help the descendants of Abraham. Therefore, it was necessary for him to be made in every respect like us, his brothers and sisters, so that he could be our merciful and faithful high priest before God. Then he could offer a sacrifice that will take away the sins of the people, since he himself has gone through suffering and testing. He is able to help us when we are being tested. Hebrews chapter 2, verse 16 to 18, according to NLT. There is a view today that human beings are just another animal. Of course, from an evolutionary perspective, we are just highly evolved apes. From an evolutionary perspective, we simply respond to our external environment to gratify our needs and ensure the survival of the species. In other words, we are basically just programmed in our responses. We are no better than artificial intelligence. So is humanity unique and special or not? The Bible seems to think so. Sorry, where was I? Okay, I got it. So, is humanity unique and special or not? The Bible seems to think so, because it says, referring to human beings, what is mankind that you are mindful of them? A son of man that you care for him. You made them a little lower than the angels. You crowned them with glory and honor and put everything under their feet. Hebrews chapter 2, 6 to 8. According to the Bible, we are not simply just animals. Human beings are highly exalted in the creation of this world. What human beings have that animals do not possess is a consciousness that goes far beyond mere self-awareness. We strive for beauty, for goodness, and for perfection. We have a capacity for love and self-sacrifice motivated by selfless nobility that goes beyond merely utilitarian purposes. We have a capacity for we have a capacity for spirituality.
Yes, continue. Did we lose him? Did we lose our reader? Mm-hmm. Did we lose our reader?
Yeah, it seems so.
Yes, we lost him.
Yeah, could somebody, the floor was on, could somebody begin from where the cursor is? Could somebody continue from where the cursor is? That's where he had reached. Candy?
We have a capacity for spirituality, including deep and self-aware communication with God. All of these things are gifts from God. So spirituality will never be found through artificial
Your network is a bit wanting.
If we
Your network is
recognize
a bit
God
wanting.
Okay, let me pick it from there.
Yeah,
Please.
sorry.
Oh, yes.
So pick it from there. True spirituality will.
True spirituality will never be found through artificial intelligence. If we recognize God as our creator, then we should also see humanity as the creator of artificial intelligence. That is the reason why true spirituality will never be found through artificial intelligence. It is only because of my walk with God that I am able to invite others to walk with Him. It is only because of my own personal failures and pain and my healing by God that I hope to be able to share and help others. Love comes only from God and not from a computer algorithm. Joy comes from God. Peace comes from God. These things can flow through a person who is connected with God. They cannot come from a machine. No software will ever be able to heal a broken soul. Only God can do that. And the AI generated message at the start of this blog, I am sure AI will continue to improve rapidly. However, to me, it just sounds shallow and fake. I hope you aren't too impressed by it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Onchan. Now, I invite one or two reflections on what we have heard. One or two reflections, your thoughts about what we have heard. Anybody? Your thoughts on what we have heard. Any hand? Yes, Othello.
I'd like to say briefly, thank you, Dr. Ari. I'd like to say briefly, the writer sought to distinguish the AI, which is called the artificial intelligence, as a technology, distinguishing this from humanity, because the human being can feel, they have emotion, but AI doesn't. So this is what this message is about, so that people get sucked into this new technology and they get easily carried away by the AI, forgetting that this is machine. Does not have feeling. It does not have love. It does not have joy. It does not have the emotion. When we write as people, as human beings, part of our emotion is seen in that writing, in what we write. The AI doesn't have that. That is a machine. But the machine has been created by human beings, so we shouldn't get carried away. That's the short message I have for this. Thank you,
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Othello. Anybody would like to add his or her voice on what we've read? Anybody else? I can see the hand of Josephine.
Thank you, Prof. Okay, in addition to what Othello has said, that AI cannot give us the spirituality. We are urged to believe in God, and we also hope for the best from God, because we cannot depend on AI to solve our issues, the problems we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josephine, for those reflections. In case there is one more brief one. One more brief one. Right. So a few thoughts on what we've listened to. Whenever we get the concept of AI, artificial intelligence, what comes to our minds? The first times we heard about artificial intelligence, be it last year, be it the year before, and so forth. You, who is an educator, a school teacher, you who is a manager, what came to your mind about AI? If I may want to share with you my feelings, that the first time I heard about AI as an educator, the thing that came to my mind were, here come students will be given tasks, and they'll go down to AI, ask AI to compute the responses, and they'll present to me the responses. That was the first thing that came to my mind. Indeed, during invigilation of exams in the university, especially where huge numbers sit, numbers exceeding 1,000 and so forth, sitting to write a university exam, we occasionally find many students who come with their mobile phones, smartphones. They have entered some ChatGPT groups where they'll actually get a question of the exam, send that exam through that discussion, ChatGPT discussion group. Another student will search for an answer outside the exam room, will send the answer to the platform, and the students will actually copy down the responses. I spent time to reflect over this, and I asked myself, is the solution going to be to wrestle with the students to make sure, of course, the rule does not allow them to come with mobile phones or that kind of technology in the exam room. So the question is the struggle going to be making sure they don't come with mobile phones in the exam room and so forth? Of course, the usual thing, there is the part that students will always put down written materials, unauthorized written materials, and move with them to exams. Then reflecting on this, I thought we should be able as educators to craft questions that can be tamper-proof. They cannot be tampered with the AI in an examination room. And I started trying it with assignments. And sure, I gave out some assignments to students, gave them some 2 weeks, 3 weeks to work out the assignments. They attempted them on AI, and anytime they loaded it into the AI chatbot, The AI chatbot returned the response, "I'm not competent to respond to this." Then students came to me and asked me, "Mwalimu Kegode, what did you do? What did you do? We cannot get the answers to this." And the idea was, we must really be able to craft these evaluations in a manner that AI cannot replace the student that we want to train in our student. It calls for deeper reflection. What we've been reading about, thinking about Christian apostolate, you know, Eliezer is arguing we cannot replace humanity with the technology. Technology comes our way to aid us, reach out. You know, I once told you in these classrooms that a deeper theology, I'm going to pronounce, a deeper theology. That right away from crucifixion, death and resurrection and ascension, what you find in this reading, the God incarnate, the God who became a human being through Jesus Christ, after resurrection, he takes upon a divine body. Yet he must touch not divine beings in this world, but must touch real human beings, flesh and blood. And I've told you one time that for Christ to touch the hungry and give them food, he's very much, now listen to me, I'm saying this is deep theology. He's very much unable to do this unless he uses the human persons. He requires you so that he can feel and touch the hungry. He requires you and me so that he can be able to touch the naked. He requires you and me so that he can visit the sick. There are so many hospitals around the world. He's not going to come in a divine body to visit the sick in their homes and in their hospitals. This is what we mean by saying our humanity is irreplaceable. Our humanity is fundamental in the redemptive history. God requires our humanity. Similarly, we in this class who are teachers, as we are talking about, you know, the ICTs, information communication technologies, one of the worries that people have is that these ICTs might replace the teacher. Not so. ICTs are not going to replace the teacher. Far from that. The teacher's humanity, the teacher's hand of love, the teacher's face is an irreplaceable teaching tool that ICTs cannot replace. Think about this class we are having. You are not able to see my face. You are not able to touch my hand and greet me physically. But you see, in spite of the Zoom technology, you are able to hear my voice. In my voice, you get the tonation, you get the stress. And definitely, through my voice, as recorded by yourself, through my voice, you know, I'm able to touch somebody. This is what we are talking about when we talk about the irreplaceable position that a teacher, an instructor plays. You cannot do very effective instruction. You cannot do very effective facilitation in learning without the human touch. The human touch is conveyed first and foremost through the 5 common senses, through hearing, seeing, touching, smelling, and so forth. We get that element of the human touch. As we learn this evening and reflect on the policy infrastructure around ICTs in education, let's reflect deeply and let us be nourished about our irreplaceability. You know, that if you conceptualize that irreplaceability, then as a teacher, as a manager, as an instructor, you'll burn with zeal to sit on your table to prepare to teach. ICT will become not the teacher, but a tool through which the teacher is reaching out his audience or her audience in a more humane way. Let us pray. Divine teacher, you come to us every other day to remind us of the unique role we play in the universe. Created in the likeness and image of you, enlighten us every day as we have always prayed to you that our presence as leaders in this society may transform the people around us, and that nobody who comes into our presence may leave our presence without being changed positively. Send us your spirit throughout this classroom, that we may be able to reflect deeply and learn deeply. In learning deeply, we may emulate your Son, Jesus Christ, and come to the image and likeness that you created us to be. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
dear friends, we now move to the first part of our presentation. We did indicate that we are having 3 presentations. The first task will guide us to appreciate the policy guideline, the policy infrastructure that is coined around UNESCO. Our focus, our study focus will be to answer this question: why do we need policy on ICT issues in education? So that group that will be talking to us, they have been given an article to read and discuss, and they'll be helping us to answer that question: why we need policy on ICT issues. Very important. Now, in trying to navigate that question, they have been asked to analyze the 4 policy level recommendation within UNESCO guidelines. Policy recommendations as regards the role of government, policy recommendations as regards inclusion, equity, and gender equality, policy recommendation as regards quality and innovation, and finally, policy recommendations as regards issues of measurement and monitoring strategies for the place of ICT in education. In attending to those policy levels. So, the idea is that is where UNESCO is guiding us to reflect more deeply. The group will move on to try and help us consider what conditions we need to put in place in order to ensure that there is effective implementation of these recommendations. They were guided effectively. So after we've looked at that global level through the lens of UNESCO, the second group will come in to talk to us about the African Union's guidelines. So they will move. They have also been given a few reflective articles to look at. And after they have reflected on this, they'll be guiding us with 3 focus areas: the element of digital technology appropriation, the element of education in digital technology, that is how to empower people to do that, and very closely connected with that, to be able to look at capacity building that will enable that digital technology uptake. So they respond to the 2 questions as indicated. So after we've looked at UNESCO, come down at the African Union, we'll come home by the 3rd group, reflecting on the policy framework on ICT in education and training in Kenya. So they have been spending their time to look at the policy framework on ICT in education and training in Kenya. And they'll be reflecting on a few issues as they have been guided, so that they can finally help us reflect on 2 fundamental issues. One, they'll be helping us to outline the specific policy objectives, and they will critique and assess the practical challenges that actually mitigate against the realization of these policy objectives. And finally, they will reflect on those challenges and provide a reasoned assessment of what they have thought needs to be done so that this policy document can reach its practical implementation. So group number 1, I invite you to take up the floor. Who is guiding us? Number 1. 3.1.
Hi, Dr. Kegode. We have our team, Chris Wekesa is there. We have Obadia Baizire, who should be sharing, and the group members may raise their hands so that we
the
can
group members
see
raise their hands, please. Group members raise up your hands. Group members alone, raise up your hands. Group members, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Group members, raise up your hands. Only 4 members present in class. Right, 4 members present.
I know there are 2. Our group has Cindy, who
I'm aware Cindy is absent.
Okay. And Taslin, who has indicated to us that she's actually on the way, should be joining shortly. So
right.
Yes, but Chris, maybe because Chris was coordinating us,
I would request during the presentation, thank you very much, Boaz. I would request during the presentation, the group members to keep their hands up through the presentation, kindly. The group members, all group members in the house, keep your hands up during the presentation, kindly. Thank you. Yes, Taslin, welcome. Yes, 4. I thought we should have now more. All right. So the leader, you can take up the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Mine was just to do a brief introduction. And with that, then the group members would be picking it up. But the very first thing is that we wanted to indicate that the UNESCO policy document is actually informed by the UN global goals, which were actually adopted at the General Assembly of 2015. So that background, we want to unpack it just to enable us understand where we are coming from. And I think because even the author of the article that we looked at has actually tried to delve into that to give us a context. For example, explaining to us why that was important, and then going straight to global sustainable development goal number 4, and giving us even the pointers which are couched as targets and indicators therein. So from there, then we'll be able to help the class get that context before we come straight to the policy recommendations and what enabling and bioenvironment is be required. Can we go to the next slide, Obadiah? So the Sustainable Development Goal number 4 aims at ensuring that there's inclusive and equitable quality education. And it was to promote also lifelong learning opportunities for all. In other words, the inclusivity, equity, and equality of education becomes very paramount. And of course, the fact that learning does not stop. It only ends when one actually goes to the grave. And the underlying principles of the Sustainable Development Goal are the first one, that it is founded on the human rights principle. And 2, that it recognizes education as a public good. And with that, it assigns the state the primary mandate or duty to ensure its protection, its respect, and the fulfillment for everyone. And indeed, the third principle is on ensuring that gender equality is inextricably linked to the right to education for all. So that whenever we are discussing about accessing the right to education, we have to place at the center the gender equality component. The SDG 4 has 7 targets. And the first one, that is of ensuring that the girls and boys complete free, equitable, and primary and secondary education, leading to relevant and effective learning outcomes. As we'll be going forward, you'll realize that for that to be achieved, then the issues why then the policy on ICT becomes very important and relevant. The target 2 of ensuring that the girls and boys have access to quality early childhood development care and pre-primary school so that they are ready for learning at the primary level going forward. And then the target 3 of ensuring access for all women and men to affordable and quality technical, vocational, and tertiary education, the TVET, inclusive of the university education. Then next, the SDG, the target 4.4 of substantially increasing the number of youth and adults who have relevant skills, including technical and vocational, for employment, decent jobs, and entrepreneurship. You realize that this encompasses the fact that these young men and women, the youth and adults, are able first to develop their skills. And then using those skills, they are able to get gainful employment, decent jobs, and also be entrepreneurs so that then they are able to support the society. The 4.5, elimination of gender disparities at all levels. and ensuring equal access at every level of education. The target 4.6, ensuring that all youth and a substantial proportion of adults, both men and women, achieve literacy and numeracy. I think all of us do appreciate the fact that in a literate and numerate society or world, then it becomes easier even to have conversations, even to make submissions, or even to discuss things, and generally just get to understand one another more. The target 4.7 is that which ensures that all learners acquire knowledge and skills that are needed to support sustainable development. And indeed, you'd find that within the component, they are incorporated issues of global citizenship, just ensuring that the citizens themselves are able to be universal in thinking and even action. They are enabling or means that would enable those targets really to be achieved. And that is where the first thing you find target 4.1, building and upgrading education facilities that are child disability and gender sensitive. They are friendly to all the diversities that we have. The target 4.B, expansion of the global number of scholarships, and this particularly for the developing countries. And here, the aspects of ICT, expansion of higher education, TVET opportunities, being particular to technical engineering and scientific programs, including research. And the 4.C is the substantial increase in the supply of qualified teachers. And you realize that here, with the teachers, I think Dr. Kegode already mentioned the fact that even with this ICT developing, the teachers that are required to ensure that facilitation of learning at all parts of it is very, very critical. And that is a means that would be required to enable us to go ahead. I would wish to have the next member of the group just picking up from there. Why sector-wide, intersector in ICT education policies are essential. Is Chris there? I saw Chris was...
Boss, I request that my colleague takes over. I'm just entering the Vice Chancellor's office, and I may not be able to proceed.
I know Obadia will be dealing with the key recommendations also. But Taslin, are you there? Or Obadia, you can just pick up as the others are joining there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. Now, after that, we're looking at why are sector-wide or intersector ICT.
Group 1, you have, excuse me, Obadia. Being the timekeeper, I think it is in order if I report this, you have at least 10 minutes and at most 15 minutes. Thank you.
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And we are just trying to look at this scope and try to understand why is it that it should be a sector-wide. And number one, we are looking at it that this one will enable government to play leading roles and set up necessary regulatory frameworks. We're also looking at ensure the context-specific planning and provision that you will hear more about that in the recommendations. It also align multi-layer and the multi-perspective policies to respond to the opportunities and challenges of emerging technology. Also, we have bridging formal and informal education to enable a lifelong learning pathway, affirming the centrality of teachers' capacity and digitally relevant pedagogies, and to continuously build institutional capacities. Another need is that to coordinate public agencies and leverage strategic multi-stakeholders partnership and enhancing the continuity and to scaling up of effective programs. incentivize innovation practices and to innovative digital solutions. Remove or bridge artificial barriers between ICT platforms and different sectors, and to build a rigorous evaluation and reinforce evidence-based. Now, when it comes now to recommendations, I think for the interest of time, my slide will not move, but I will speak to the presentation. Now, we're now looking at the paper as a whole and trying to see the key recommendations that are being given, like in the this wide scope. And we're trying to just see what are some of the policies that have been recommended by the UNESCO in this report. Number one is that there should be governmental support. A governmental support is a prerequisite for sustainable development recommendation. And it says that establish a well-defined governance structure. Accountable government agencies should oversee the development, implementation, and monitoring of national ICT in education policies and the master plan. Effective implementation, vision, and resources allocation. A clear articulated national vision for ICT in education, coupled with dedicated budgetary allocations, is paramount. This ensures infrastructure development, teacher training programs, and equitable access to technology are adequately supported. We have also the aspect of multi-stakeholders collaboration, fostering partnerships with civil society organizations, the private sectors, and educational institutions is crucial. This collaboration approach facilitates resource mobilization, expertise sharing, and a holistic approach to policy development. Also, we have policy continuity. Sustained progress hingers on unwavering political will and a commitment to long-term investment in ICT integration across political administration. Now, looking at another key, we have another recommendation that is prioritizing inclusion and equity for all learners. The recommendation goes as follows: formulate education policies that actively promote and monitor equitable access to digital resources and the development of essential digital skills for all students, regardless of gender, age, race, disability, or socio-economical background. The effective implementation of this should be comprehensive needs assessment, conducting a thorough assessment to identify existing disparities in access to technology and digital literacy skills across diverse student population. This data serves as the foundation of targeted innovation. Number two, a tailored interventions. This one will help to develop and implement policies and programs that address the specific need of marginalized group. This could include specialized teacher training for inclusive classrooms, subsidized internet access for low-income families, or a targeted program to bridge the gender gap in STEM field. Number three recommendation is cultivating quality and fostering innovation in pedagogy. The recommendation: integrate ICT strategically into pedagogical practices to enhance the quality of teaching and learning. Encourage the exploration and utilization of innovative educational technologies to enrich the learning experiences. This is the effective implementation. teacher training and support, provide educators with the necessary training and ongoing support to effectively integrate technology into their teaching. This encompasses digital pedagogy, content creation skills, and technology-based assessment strategies. Number two, we have the curriculum modernization. A curriculum should be reviewed. It should be reviewed. Revision and adaptation of curricula are essential to leverage the affordances of ICT for interactive student-centered student-centered learning experiences that cater for diverse learning styles. But also, there is need to invest in high-quality content to develop a high-quality, age-appropriate, and curricula-aligned educational content that is engaging and fostering deep understanding. The last recommendation is measurement and monitoring, assessing impact and guiding improvement recommendation. This aims to develop a robust frameworks to systematically assess the impact of ICT initiatives on learning outcomes, teachers' performance, and the overall educational effectiveness. The implementation goes like this: meaningful metrics and indicators. Define clear, measurable key performance indicators to track progress in areas like student achievement, digital skill development, and teacher ICT proficiency. Meaning that implementing implementing all this and having the infrastructure is not all, but there should be clear, measurable. Key performances that educators will be using to track if indeed the kid or the learner have really progressed in the area of digital literacy. And also maybe for also teachers, there should be a keen observation and monitoring. A metrics should be set aside so that you are able to tell if there is any progress. There is also data collection and analysis, whereby should establish a reliable data collection system to monitor ICT use in schools, not only implementation, but monitoring by collecting data, so student learning outcome and teacher training participation. Utilize this data set to inform policy adjustment and course corrections. So the essential of collection and data here, now it's in the light of taking a good stock of what is happening. Has ICT in education, has the implementation of ICT in pedagogy helped the learner to improve their output? How are they responding? Is there maybe the way there was, is there any improvement in their critical thinking? What about teachers? Are they participating in the training? Are they struggling with the new technology? And what can be done in order to help these teachers unleash their full potential? And last but not least, we have data-driven decision making that emphasizes
4 more minutes. 4 more minutes.
Yeah. That emphasizes data-driven decision making to identify success and challenges, enabling continuous improvement and more impactful integration strategy. By addressing these critical conditions for effective implementation, policymakers can create an environment that fosters success, integration of the proposed recommendation. Now, what we're talking about here in the recommendation, if I can just sum up in a few words, we're just now looking at how these policies of that have been drafted to ensure quality education can be achieved. And the first thing that we have seen is the governmental support. It is a prerequisite a prerequisite that the government should support a school to make some establishment infrastructures and also for resources allocation and ensure that the ICT is well integrated in terms of infrastructure. And that is the key recommendation, the governmental support. And that we see that there is a need to frame in that same slot. There is need to frame policies in a manner that it covers the curriculum, so that if it's ICT based learning, the curriculum, the activities that are in curriculum reflect also the ICT, the ICT orientation, so that every activity that will be taking in place in the classroom has a taste of ICT based. For example, maybe music and an ICT teacher, it would be a bit frustrating when I'm teaching a lesson on maybe how to moderate tempo or Dante, how to do some moderations. If I mean,
And Obadia, you are muted. If you are doing the summary, you're muted unless you finish.
Oh, I'm sorry for that. Was just saying that number one, to save my 2 minutes that are remaining. Number one, we have seen that the need for government to intervene in education. In this implementation, there is need also to involve the multi-stakeholders, and I have views from multiple stakeholders, and we have like private sectors and also some organizations that are very crucial in participation in order for maybe a country to set a policy based on an ICT. There is also the prioritizing of inclusion and equity for all learners that advocate for comprehensive need assessment and also a tailored interventions for the same. Number three, we talked about cultivating quality and fostering innovation in pedagogy. And over this, we said that integrating ICT strategically in pedagogy is key to enhance the learning outcome. Over the same, we have also the teacher training, that after all these have been implemented, you have to train teachers how to maneuver with ICT and how to use them effectively in their day-to-day life. There is also the investment in high quality of content. So that's the content that you're teaching right now is not the content that was taught in that area when ICT was not there. So there should be some moderation, some improvement in the current setup. But the last one, we talked about measurement and monitoring. So after you've implemented even a system, when you've implemented a system, after you have piloted, you've seen how it's running, it's always good when you come back. Now, this is now the corrective part of it. A corrective part of it means that after you've implemented everything, it's good now to come back and assess, am I meeting my target? Why is that I implemented this? So that we may bridge the disparities in the society. Is ICT really helping us as a nation? Is ICT helping us as a school, maybe as Daystar University? Is the integration of ICT helping us to cover the disparity in the society? Is it helping us to improve the outcome, the output of our learners? And this is the part whereby now you are doing like the metrics, and you're doing the statistics based on the collected data and analysis, so that you may make a thorough decision of whether the integration has been successful or there is a need for improvement.
Time is
by
over.
that, I can put a comma.
You've exceeded your presentation by 2 minutes.
All right. So,
That's kind.
Boaz, on behalf of the group, can we say the group is done?
Yes, Mwalimu, we are done. I think we have gone through first the background to the recommendations that UNESCO was making for the ICT. And then we've gone into the specific recommendations, 4 of them. And for each, we have given the case of what are the implementation imperatives required so that they can be effectively done. Maybe if just the close up with Chris just within a minute. Chris, because his hand, he was traveling, but his hand is up now. So, thank you, Malim.
Okay.
Chris, we can see you.
Right. Chris, you want to say anything? Maybe not. All right.
Okay, it's okay. Thank you so much, Malim.
Thank you so much. So the hands of those group members can go down first. Everybody could put his hand down. Now, who will it? All right. So Muku, put your hand down. Let's see, lower the hand. All right. So let's have now the hands of group 2 raised up. Oh, no. The hands of group 2. All right, so take it over. So the hands remain up during the presentation. Thank you. What time is that?
Okay, just give me a minute as I'm trying to share.
Florence, excuse me, Florence.
Yes. I'm trying to share. Can you hear me?
I can see Oloich has already shared our work.
Oh,
Yeah. Can you see it?
yep. Wanted to use my notes.
Then you can ask Madiang to pull his work down.
Madiang, are you present? Madiang, if you could allow me to share so that I am able to speak, but it's anyway, let me just continue so we don't waste time. Oh, okay.
Proceed to share.
Okay, thank you.
Is Madiang a member of this group?
Yes.
He's aware, he's already pulled it down now.
Yeah, let his hand be up. Florence, your hand should be up.
Oh, it was up. Oh, I spoke and then I think it lowered itself. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank
you. All right.
It's not visible.
Right. Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, class. We are group 2. The members are, as you've seen on the screen, Doliana, myself, Francis Ochami, Jimmy Sanya, Oloch Madiang, Paul Amata, Ruth Ingosi, and Stella Sanya. Ruth had requested, because she's unwell, she might not be able to join, but if she has, that will be great. So I'm just sending this out so that we all know. And so we were given a task. Our task was to read the Africa Union policy guidelines and analyze both the enablers and inhibitors of digital education in Africa. And then with reference to policy guidelines to digitizing teaching and learning in Africa, discuss what we think needs to be done to overcome each of these inhibitors. And so I'll go straight to the introduction of what the document talks about, the Africa Union Digital Education Strategy and Implementation Plan of 2023-2028, establishes a framework for engagement and acceleration and engagement and acceleration of adoption of digital technologies in alignment with the Continental Education Strategy for Africa. It proposes three things: digital technology appropriation in education, education in digital technologies for digitally empowered citizens, and then building the capacities of AU member states in digital infrastructures. And so I'll go straight to the enablers, what we found from the document, the enablers of digital education in Africa. When we looked at that, we saw several enablers, and one of them is increased access to technology. There is a growing availability of digital devices on the and internet connectivity across Africa. And so far, the statistics tell us, the ones that we were able to find, that Africa has 489 million unique mobile subscribers, an increase of about 43% penetration. And then we also found out that within Africa as well, in Kenya, the Communication Authority of Kenya indicates that there were about 33 million smartphones in Kenya in the third quarter of 2023. So the number could have increased. And we have nearly 300 million internet users in Africa, and 1 in 4 Africans have access to internet. So that's the environment that is providing the case that we have increased access to technology, which is an enabler. And then we have supportive policy environment. African governments have taken steps to support the implementation of digitization in education. Some African countries have actually developed policies and strategies that promote digital literacy and investment in education technology. One of the countries that I have had an experience with is Rwanda, which has a robust ICT strategy with clear policies in terms of where they want to go with the education sector. For Kenya, we have the controversy of needing to make sure that all our students have digital devices, but we are almost taking steps backwards. This is my own personal opinion. Number 3, we looked at technological innovation. Tech development tailored to the African context has the potential to enhance digital education in the region. And we have seen edtech companies come up to support a lot of innovations around the same. We've seen tech companies like Mshule, Angaza Elimu, Ubongo in Tanzania, Zeraki in Kenya. So we've seen a lot of technological innovations in the region, Kenya included. The other enabler is collaborative partnerships between governments, educational institutions, private companies, and others. And the team that has just completed talked heavily, of course, around multi-sectoral approach. And this we saw as a key enabler for digital education. At some point, we do realize, even as policies come in place, government cannot do all the work by itself. And so hence, there needs to be a lot of collaborative efforts between private sector and public sector, as well as civil society organizations. The other enabler we saw is such as improved internet connectivity and the establishment of e-learning platforms. We spoke about that earlier, sorry about that. And then digital literacy and skills, that is self-explanatory. The strategy emphasizes the importance of digital literacy and skills for all, especially for teachers and students. The other enabler we saw is national digital education strategies, encouraging AU member states to develop. And you see that this competition between AU members helps to foster growth and development of national strategy. Number 8, we saw education data and analytics capacity. The strategy aims to address AU member states' education data analytics capacity, enabling them to track and measure the effectiveness. So continuously, tracking and seeing where are we and how we're doing. And then, so that environment is there at the AU level. And then regional economic communities, these play a significant role in promoting digital transformation in education, supporting countries and efforts to articulate and implement digital education strategy and harmonizing that within the competencies and skills framework across the region. So Africa is in the space where it wants to grow digitally and grow digital education. And so I'll stop there and allow my colleague, I think Doliana, to continue with the inhibitors. And then Madiam will do overcoming inhibitors. Doliana?
Hello, Florence.
If you want to share,
I'll take it back.
Okay. Sorry?
Madiang.
Okay, cool. Madiang, you can go ahead. You can share, you can stop sharing, then you share.
My group, we have at least 20 minutes, 20 more minutes.
Thank you. I've utilized my time well. Madiang?
We can't hear Madiang. Madiang? Maybe somebody needs to take over and continue. A member of the group to take over and continue, please.
Juliana, please go ahead. Madiang will pick it up from there.
Okay, so among the other, okay, so another challenge is the challenge on infrastructure, where inadequate internet connectivity and limited access to electricity in some regions may be a challenge to the integration of digital education. Also, we have the financial constraints, where if the funding is limited, it means that educational technology initiatives and infrastructure development can lag behind, and therefore will be a barrier to the widespread adaptation of digital education. So looking at content relevance, the availability of digital learning content that is not aligned with local curricula and cultural contexts can limit its effectiveness. This we see where Africa is fast engaging teachers and content creators to develop the context relevant materials. There is still a domination by the foreign content and methods. Florence? Another inhibitor is digital divide. The strategy recognizes that the digital divide, where some students and teachers have better access to digital technologies than others, can create unequal opportunities for learning and hinder the effective implementation of digital education initiatives. Lack of digital literacy. We find that when the digital skills are lacking among educators and students, and an existing culture of e-learning in most African education systems are major stumbling blocks to digital education, as they may impede the effective use of digital learning tools and resources. Another inhibitor is the concern on cybersecurity. So we find that the strategy looks at the importance of online safety and cybersecurity policies to ensure that the digital education is secure and protected from threats, that when our children go online, they are safe. Whatever they are doing online is safe, and that they are safe from these vulnerable cyber risks, and the proliferation of unverified data may compromise education quality. Let's move on. we are going to look at how do we address these barriers? How do we overcome the inhibitors? The first approach is the DOTS approach, which simply stands for the digital connectivity. The D is for digital connectivity. The O stands for the online and offline learning. T is teachers and facilitator. S is for safety online and in schools. And lastly, the last S stands for skills focused learning. Now, we are supposed to adapt this, we are supposed to adapt and implement this approach at all education levels. This means from pre-primary, primary, secondary, tertiary, and going forward. Why is this why is this important? This recommendation is fulsome in dealing with the various attributes under the inhibitors of learning. It forms a simple and adaptable form of standard operation procedure, popularly known as the SOP, that African governments can use. With it, we find that it emphasizes a multi-sectoral approach and collaboration, particularly for ensuring online safety for both the teachers and the learners. Secondly, we have the redesigning the African education system. This includes disadvantaged urban settings and rural communities who have limited access to electricity and internet infrastructure. Take, for example, Auma, who is in Awendo, or Wekesa in Busia, or even Tibet, who is in Tiati. We need to help them ensure that they can attend classes regardless of where they are. Many African students spend a lot of time they spend a lot of time trying to get to physical schools, maybe by commuting and all that. And we find that they have the challenge of lack of uniformity and infrastructural access as schools are differently constructed and equipped. If this recommendation were to work, it means that these students will have an improved chance of equality everywhere, and resources for transportation may be saved. Accessing education everywhere is great convenience that will benefit the African children, especially in the areas of conflict where seasonal displacement, e.g. floods. Florence, which other one?
On the next slide.
Floods or other natural calamities occur. Yeah, go to the next, please.
Go ahead.
Let's make progress. We make progress.
Okay, Juliana, you're not clear. Madiang, please take over.
Another barrier that needs to be strengthened to support and guide learners.
Is she okay now? Am I audible?
You can proceed, Brother Madiang.
Please go ahead.
Madiang, in the next 11 minutes, please, Brother Madiang.
Okay. The third way of overcoming this is strengthening educators and learners, making sure they are in a networked environment. Training is a key part, particularly on counseling services to ensure students are in the best frame of mind. In addition, constant retraining to adapt to the fast-changing world of education is really key. So in our discussion, we came up with the idea that post-COVID, there has been a focus on mental health, and there is an increasing body of mental health support. Because the internet is quite vast and it has lots of distractions, and sometimes it can lead to mental exhaustion, elements of the social media not being really reality and creating or leading to the wrong frame of mind, teachers can be supported by training and retraining. Now, through this, then countries will have to ensure alertness and adaptability to the hardware and software challenges. The fourth way of overcoming this per African Union is provision of adequate investment in the needed infrastructure to connect students anywhere and anytime. Remember, Doliana has helped us to understand the need to have students getting or accessing education anywhere. So publicly available Wi-Fi services, subsidized or freely available, can really help in this regard. In our discussion, we looked at this recommendation and we see that Africa really has a great opportunity to overcome the electricity inhibitors by tapping, for example, in our solar energy, so that this may power our hardware and our software. If that is done, and already we are seeing this, then where electricity is an issue, we will be able to continue with the hardware, computers, telecommunication infrastructure, and improve Wi-Fi access and utilization. Some of you have already seen experiences where we have public Wi-Fi at parks and in schools in Kenya. The fifth recommendation, if you could move to next, was to ensure that media and digital socio-emotional literacy are ranked as basic skills for learners. This means ensuring that syllabuses at all levels incorporate the basic and core components of digital literacy. So we reflected and said that digital education then is a standard pedagogical approach for whatever subject it is that we are learning. And therefore, it should be mainstreamed appropriately. Current environmental efforts, for example, you've seen things about going paperless to save trees, are facilitating innovations in digital life. Countries can and should review their basic education policies to be aligned to their national digital literacy policies. That means that the ministries concerned should essentially come together and work together. Remember, we have Ministry of Communication and Infrastructure, and we have the Ministry of Education as separate. The last part of that recommendation basically addresses three key stakeholders. It looks at the policymakers, the administrators, and the teachers or instructors. For the policymakers, we discussed that the recommendations by AU basically call on our policymakers to embrace multi-sectoral partnerships within government. Education ministries cannot do this alone. Curriculum design directorates in African countries by now have reviewed their curriculum so much, and we should appreciate that. And there is increased digital education for those who are currently in training to become teachers. For administrators, this recommendation goes on the matter of leveraging resources. Digital education is expensive. Digital products have a short lifespan. And so there is a constant need for replacement or adoption. Administrators may work with edtech companies to see the extent to which this hardware and software can be subsidized, such that the cost for parents and the learners do not increase exponentially or out of hand from the known ways of expending for education. Finally, teachers are a key stakeholder in this area. And as they use all these digital technologies, they are gaining a lot of experiences. And therefore, it would be important if they are continually motivated to improve their digital literacy, but also engaged by the edtech companies so that they work closely in creating content and pedagogical methods that are adaptable to the context in which they are working in. Thank you very much. We will stop there and take it back to Florence. Over to you.
Thank you very much. We will wait for the question time, but we wanted to show you what are the enablers, what are the inhibitors, and what we think is possible in terms of overcoming the existing inhibitors to digital education in Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Florence. Our timekeeper, how are we doing?
Group 2 still has 2 more minutes.
All right.
I think
So
I
we
leave that
move on
out
to
for questions from the.
No, we
from
move
the
on
bench.
to group 3, the final one. If you work under even 20 minutes, we'll even be more happier. Try group 3.
Good evening, Dr. Kegode and the class.
Just a moment. All hands of group 2 be put down, and group 3 to raise up their hands kindly. Everybody in group 3 to raise up his or her hand. So everybody of group 2, your hand down. Doliana, your hand down. Doliana, your hand is still up. Yeah, can we have really members of group 3 raising up their hand? We can only see 3 members only. 4, continue on. 5. We can only see 5 members. Right. Maybe those are the only ones available. So take it up. Who is the leader to guide us?
Dr. Kegode, I was just wondering whether raising hands is enough to earn marks.
No, it is not earning marks. It is helping us to see who are available for the group and who participated. It's good. It's good. We are able to see. For example, we don't want a situation whereby people worked on a piece and they sent one person in class to listen in. We'd like to see that there is a sizable number of the group members listening in to the discussion. That's why, apart from listing up the names, we'd like to see them. Nyabere?
Thank you, sir. That was just on a light note. This is group 3, and if you can see our screen, the members of the group are listed, and what we did is that we shared the work following a discussion, and each one of us was able to make their submission related to the section that was assigned to them. And that is the same way we are going to make our presentation. Yes, Meshach, if you can scroll down. Yeah, we were meant to explore the challenges that the implementation of the ICT policy is likely to face. The question here reads that outline the specific policy objectives and critically assess the practical challenges involved in realizing each of them. So what we did, we were considering each objective of the, I think, around 7 areas. And for each objective, we would explore challenges that are likely to be, faced in realizing these objectives. So, Meshach, we will go to the first area. This is on equity and access in ICTs. The first objective says that the policymakers aim to provide comprehensive and systematic ICT infrastructure across all levels of education and training. Here we emphasized, we focused on the emphasis on all levels of education and training. And we realized that this objective will face challenges. And one of the most significant challenge is the cost. We saw that ICT infrastructure is very costly. Even if you were just to look at, the acquisition of hardware, the software, network, data management, power connectivity, this one's cost an arm and a leg. And knowing our country, our establishments, we thought that this might be very difficult to achieve. Then another point that we looked at here was the technical illiteracy. We know that obviously capacity is low in different areas of the country, different levels of education, and therefore it would be very difficult for such an objective to be realized. And we saw that learners, and especially even educators, lack the prerequisite knowledge on handling and managing ICT infrastructure. And therefore, the policy drafters will definitely face a challenge in providing this that they call comprehensive and systematic ICT infrastructure across all those levels. The second objective says that they intend to enhance participation of learners, trainees, educators, and managers in an inclusive ICT-enabled environment. So participation is the key word here. And we thought for this objective to be realized, it means everybody involved should be very enthusiastic about it. But then when you look at the reality, you find there are chances that there would be resistance from educators especially, because some of them may perceive this ICT inclusion in their work as an increase in their workload. And here we were just thinking about, those teachers in the far-flung areas of our country that want to come to class and teach and go home. Now, when you start telling them that they need to, include ICT in their delivery, they might start thinking, if I have been writing notes, I've been teaching history from the last 20 years, and I've been writing my notes and I have my notebook. Now you're telling me that I need to digitize those notes. Who has that time? This is what we were looking at. And another challenge that may face this particular objective was similar to what we saw earlier about in the incompetence, digital incompetence, especially among educators. We realize that for children, for the learners, that is, it's very easy for them to adapt and learn. But for the adult educators, this is going to be a challenge. Thirdly, we saw that there is going to be connectivity challenges which may hinder equal access. Connectivity here means we have places in Kenya today that do not have connectivity. They have not been reached. Many times, even when we are in class here and the people have traveled up country, we experience connectivity challenges, and it's very clear that not all our regions in the country have connectivity, and therefore getting all participants to be involved is going to be a serious challenge. Meshach? Yeah, the third objective says that the policy drafters aim to promote adoption of blended, remote, open, distance, and e-learning approaches in education and training. And so we were looking at these forms of training, and we thought that there might be a challenge in engagement and motivation. Take, for example, when you are, doing, let's say, e-learning, and you want to really engage and motivate your students, it might be very difficult. Our little experience that we had during the COVID period speaks for itself, that yes, whereas, children and other people love technology, when it comes to using them for learning, it becomes a serious challenge. And therefore, it might be difficult to really, it might be a challenge to achieve this objective. And then the most serious challenge here was going to be the expected pedagogical shift in the teaching strategies, especially. You will find that transitioning from traditional teaching methods to e-learning requires a pedagogical shift and the adoption of innovative teaching strategies. This is going to be a very serious challenge, especially when you consider the teaching workforce. The old teaching style is still there. And it's obviously going to be a challenge to have everybody, shift from the traditional methods into the modern teaching techniques. Then objective number 4 says that they aim to provide appropriate mechanisms for management of obsolete ICT infrastructure. Now, this was going to also be a challenge, because when we talk about obsolete ICT infrastructure, we are making reference to the infrastructure that is no longer in use, that has outlived its usefulness. And therefore, we thought disposing such infrastructure might cost dearly. Because again, the drafters of this policy, or whoever will be implementing, might not be entirely responsible for the disposal. We considered that, take for example, a school has 100, old desktops that are obsolete. How would they dispose this? Would they load them onto a truck and drive to Lake Victoria and dump them there? No, they will have to consult with NEMA to come up with an arrangement on how such obsolete infrastructure can be disposed. And we thought that obviously will cost a lot of money. And secondly, it could also waste a lot of time. Then there was the loss of data as another challenge that will come with this disposal of obsolete infrastructure. We said that data may be lost in the process of managing disposal. Yeah, and I want to invite Meshach to pick up on this second area. Meshach, please.
Yes, good evening, and thank you, Sam. That was articulate, and I hope the class can hear me. So much of what Sam has covered, most of the challenges that Sam has covered will be recurring, because we are looking at ICT in general and what affects its implementation and execution in terms of teaching and learning will be the same issues. However, under quality and relevance in ICTs, there are 7 objectives. The objective number 1 is to facilitate use of appropriate ICTs in curriculum development and implementation. And of course, the challenge here is the digital skills gap, which Sam has explained articulately for both educators, developers, and even the learners. Number 2, there is always the challenge of developers being outdated in terms of technology, because there is a lot of evolution going on. Content quality was another thing, because the quality of what is developed by the developers might be a challenge because of the first 2 challenges that I have shared. Cost has been covered by some, and I would repeat, of course, there is cost implication in every move with regard to ICT. And of course, there is a resistance to change, and mostly this is for the educators. And we'll cover this. I'll talk about resistance to change well in the next objectives. Objective number 2 is to provide adequate, quality, and relevant digital learning resources across all levels. Of course, again, the cost of training developers, educators, and customizing content for various learning groups. For example, there are learners with special needs and those with living with disability. They will have to customize the content to be able to include them. Secondly, the content quality may be compromised as a result of this customization. Of course, some content will be translated, and in the process of translating, you find that the quality does not remain the same. Objective number 3 is to integrate ICTs in curriculum assessment process while maintaining credibility, security, and integrity. 3 things here. Of course, there is the digital skills gap, which I'll still will not talk about, but I can say the resistance to change has to do with most educators preferring traditional methods of teaching, and most might lack confidence or even fear technology. Time constraints and workload pressures, integrating ICT in curriculum assessment and everything will require a lot of preparation, and this might be a challenge. Number 4 objective is to enhance the capacity of teachers, trainers, tutors, and lecturers to facilitate use of ICT in teaching and learning across all levels. And we are still looking at issues of data security. We are looking at quality assurance and standardization. Those are challenges. We are looking at dishonesty and so on. Objective number 5 is to enhance the capacity of policymakers and education managers on ICT education, training, and management. And we have the issue of technology advancement and rapid changes. So disruptive technologies have come in, and the evolution of ICT tools and platforms will be a challenge because these changes will require sometimes an overhaul in the material that is being developed. There is limited ICT knowledge as a challenge and skills, which we have covered previously under the digital skills gap. There is resistance to change as well. Resource constraints, that is cost, we have covered that. There is the complexity of the ICT ecosystem. Again, this is necessitated by the rapidly evolving nature of ICT. There is a diverse range of technologies, and the complex digital ecosystem can overwhelm policymakers and education managers. This will make it very difficult for them to navigate and leverage ICT effectively. Objective number 6, to enhance the capacity of councils, CEBs, BOMs, PAs, and other governing bodies to support use of ICT in education and training. We are looking, or we foresee a challenge here that, of course, there is the ICT, the limitations in the ICT infrastructure and resources, which we have also covered earlier. There is the resistance to change and technological adoption. Most people, because of convenience, would prefer the traditional ways of content delivery or rather teaching. Then, of course, there's the technical expertise issues, which we have also covered as a challenge. And finally, under this, there is the objective number 7, which is to enhance the capacity of ICT support personnel to develop, support, and maintain ICTs at national, county, and institutional levels. Of course, limited training and professional development opportunities is a challenge because we see that accessing relevant training programs and professional development opportunities to enhance the skills of the educators will become a challenge, of course, and this is necessitated by the issue of resources or other cost. Of course, resource constraints and budget limitations, and then there is a interoperability and integration challenges. We see for you to be able to achieve a seamless interoperability and integration of ICT systems and applications, this can be complex because personnel may encounter challenges in aligning systems. They might encounter challenges in data sharing. They might encounter challenges in ensuring compatibility for efficient operations. This is about that goal. So I will invite Sam back to handle the next part of research and innovation.
9 more minutes. 9 more
Thank you.
minutes.
Thank you. I'm not sure whether we will seek the indulgence of Dr. Kegode. Our section was fairly large, and we might actually overshoot the time. But in the interest of time, I would want to focus now on research and innovation. The objective says that the policy drafters aim to support the use of ICT in education and training through research and innovation. And as you can see, I would want to skip the first two challenges because we have belabored them in the previous discussion, and go straight to the third point there that talks about the difficulty in collaboration and partnerships. And here, what we meant here was that establishing and maintaining effective partnerships between educational institutions, government agencies, and the private sector can be complex. And because, again, you would realize that these different sectors will definitely have difference in objectives, their priorities are different, and even their operational methodologies will be different. And this will definitely hinder collaboration efforts. Additionally, you will find that the bureaucratic red tape and administrative challenges can slow down the formation of these partnerships, affecting the timely execution of research and innovation initiatives. Then the second challenge that will face this particular objective has to do with safeguarding intellectual property and innovation incentives. Now, we saw that developing guidelines for patenting and copyrighting research and innovations is crucial for encouraging innovation. Researchers and innovators may face bureaucratic hurdles and lengthy processes to secure patents, which can discourage participation. In addition, you will find that the development of an incentive scheme to recognize and reward researchers requires careful planning and execution to ensure it effectively motivates and retains talented individuals in the field of ICT research. This definitely will be difficult to realize, especially in our country. Then the last challenge in this objective has to do with the ineffective knowledge dissemination and utilization. We saw that the challenge will lie in ensuring that the knowledge generated from research and innovation is effectively utilized by educators and policymakers. There is often a gap between research findings and their practical application in educational settings. And this is very clear, indicating that there may be difficulties in actually bridging this gap between the research findings and their practical application. Meshach, I'm not sure who was going to make the next presentation. That will be all from me. Thank you.
We have Liz coming in next.
Group 3, 6
thank
more
you.
minutes. 6 minutes. Go.
Sorry?
Please
You have
continue. You
Okay.
have 6 minutes, it said, but continue.
For the interest of time, let me do a quick job. So ICT security, safety, and ethics. Our objective: enhance security, safety, and ethics in the use of ICTs in education and training. What could be the possible challenges? 1, unauthorized access to data. 2, generating and sharing inappropriate content. This one we have all seen happening on online. 3, infringing the rights of others. Also this one. Copyright, my fellow colleague has talked about this. And lastly, cyberbullying. So these are some of the things that we have been experiencing from our personal level. So I think the next person can take it over from here.
Okay, thank you so much. ICT in learning institutions and the community. And the objective is as stated there, that is to enhance community involvement in the use of ICT in learning institutions. So the challenges that may be experienced, one is the rural and rural areas and underfunded urban areas might lack funds for ICT infrastructure because of their proximity or maybe the places where they are. And generally, most of the time, these are areas that are always looked forgotten, especially when resources are being disbursed. Secondly, is that schools will be limited in investing in investing in and maintaining updated technology. Still, this one also comes in under resources. Thirdly, schools may lack the capacity and expertise to provide comprehensive training programs for teachers, students, and the community, because remember, it is something that is involved in a community, and the community is the school, the teachers, and even the people that are around there. So the resources or whatever they have, the capacity, the manpower that is needed, the funds to do this may not be available. Socioeconomic factors, e.g., opportunity costs may hinder community from engaging with ICT initiatives. Here, for instance, you get people in the villages. Somebody may try to weigh down, should I go for my business or my daily activities that help me to raise resources, or go sit down, be trained on these issues of ICT. So they may be torn between choosing that one. And also the older people here may find it hard to participate in this kind of programs, because it is difficult for them at such a time in learning. Then there is cultural resistance to technology and engaging traditionally underserved groups. So especially in areas where they don't welcome new things in the community, so they may find it hard to penetrate in such communities. And so still there are areas that are going to miss out on this program. Then finding suitable partners who are willing and able to support ICT initiatives can be difficult, because this one includes the partners that will be here to support this. So some of them, most of the partners are trying to check, what am I going to get? Looking at the outcome versus what they are going to invest there. So if maybe the outcome is little, they may opt out. Then finally, accessibility, especially in mountainous regions and isolated islands, may be a challenge, because these areas, even the internet issues getting there is a problem. People reaching such places is an issue. And so those may be some of the challenges that will be experienced in the process. Thank you.
You are conducting.
Silvanus, wherever. Silvanus.
Yes, I'm here. So on governance and management of ICT in education and training, the objective was strengthen the governance and management mechanisms for ICT in education and training. So the challenges here, we had insufficient resource allocation, whereby we said securing consistent funding and resources for ICT initiatives can be very difficult. I was just looking at this, an example, for example, in this country, there have been, when we talk about financing these ICT equipments, it may not be very possible because we don't have that enough money to be able to secure the funding for these resources. But you find the country has enough money for the president to travel very many countries in 1 minute. Another one was on cybersecurity, whereby sensitive data may land in wrong hands. For example, when we have all these ICT access to ICT and the cloud, whereby there is very information stored there. So the information might land in wrong hands and maybe make people to be in trouble. Another one was resistance. I was looking for where I wrote that so that I may give some information that I had. As I look for something on that, there is this resistance to change, which is a very common thing. People nowadays, you go somewhere to do a research with a teacher who has been using the traditional methods of teaching, and they don't even want to make a PowerPoint presentation, a simple thing. And then they will tell you, I don't want to use that. They will come with excuses. Like nowadays, we make lesson plans We make schemes of work online. We even communicate online. Sometimes we don't have meetings, and then they will tell you we are in they still use the manual, so it may be very difficult because people are resistant to change. So overcoming resistance from educators and institutions may be very hard. Yeah, so on cybersecurity, what I was saying is that with increased reliance on digital tools, cybersecurity measures will be necessary to protect sensitive data and maintenance. So that becomes a challenge. Do I continue with the resource mobilization and partnership?
Please do.
No, okay. Continue, Silvanus.
Okay, so the objective here was to enhance resource mobilization and partnerships for efficient use of ICT in education and training. So the challenges you'll find that they are the same because we are talking of limited funding and resources, which is a major challenge that we have, especially in this country. Inadequate ICT infrastructure is another major one. You find a school of an institution of a number of more than 50 people using only one gadget. You find an institution of 100 people, they only have one printer, they have to queue to print something. Insufficient training and support, which is something that we should look into as we move into the future and equip in training and support people in terms of ICT. The one I talked about, resistance to change, digital divide. Digital divide, as I understood this, you find that there are so many digital devices that operate differently, and it becomes so hard for people to use because if you are used to using a certain model of a gadget, and there are so many models that work differently, so it becomes hard. It brings the digital divide. Sustainability and maintenance is also another challenge, which is very expensive to sustain and maintain this ICT infrastructure. And data privacy and security, the one we already talked about. So these challenges are just the same. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Silvanus. Meshach, do you want to present these last two, considering that Evans says he's not going to be able to attend class because he's away?
Okay, sound. So under monitoring, evaluation, and reporting, the objective of this policy was to monitor, evaluate, and report the progress of ICT in education and training programs. And the challenges are here: lack of enough personnel to conduct M&E and reporting in all learning institutions. Then there's the difficulty in accessing some rural areas. Juliet talked about these disparities due to the nature of terrain and community conflicts. There is coercion of the M&E team on the ground, on the ground in conducting inspection for favorable reporting. I think that is self-explanatory. And finally, we were to look at this question where we want to assess the future, where we foresee this policy document. And here we are looking at the future of the policy document. Number one, we foresee that this document will continue to change through updates and revisions to keep it relevant. And this will be necessitated by the changes in the ICT landscape, changes in the policy landscape as well, and even the various changes in the political arena and others, because the influences to education are diverse. Number two, the document might lead to an increase in global and local partnerships, which are going to bring in expertise, they'll bring in funding and innovative solutions, which means we foresee that it is going to work. Thirdly, now emerging technologies, which probably you'll call disruptive technologies like AI, VR, AR, those are data analytics. They are likely to necessitate regular updates because they will need to be incorporated in this policy document. Number 4, potential replacements and integration with new policies is another prediction that we made, because there is a possibility of either replacing the policy altogether or integrating other policies or pieces of other policies in it. And finally, we foresee that communities will become more empowered and involved in educational processes, leading to a more collaborative environment where schools and communities will work together. Thank you very much for your patience, and thank you to the team that put this together. Back to you, Dr. Kegode.
Thank you, Meshach. I wanted to say something, Dr. Kegode.
Yes, please.
This is what I was going to say. You might have realized that our section was actually larger than maybe the other two. And
Yes.
What you have seen is just a skeleton of what we were able to do. And following feedback from you and the class members, we will add flesh to it before we submit. Thank you very much for allowing us this extra few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I want to thank everybody for that effort within the 3 groups. Now, I'm assuming the hands could go down now. The hands could go down. I'm assuming that people have made some notes during the presentation. Perhaps I would say, in the interest of time, we could, Juliet, is there something you'd like to say? I see your hand up. Maybe not. So I would say we can give about 2 or so observations on each group before I make my conclusive observations. So you could raise up your hands and indicate which group you are targeting for an observation. It could be just an observation, it could be a question, it could be something you are adding up that you would want to suggest they put in mind while reflecting on the final document or something. Anybody for group 1? Group 1? Right. I hope this is not an indicator that we forgot what they said. Chris.
Dr. Thank you so much. Mine is actually to thank every group that has presented, and my apologies that I was called upon and I was not able to present because I have been in a meeting with the Vice Chancellor because of tomorrow's demos. So just to register my apologies that I was not able to speak, but all the same, I've listened, and I congratulate every person that have spoken. Thank you, Dr.
Very well, Chris. Thank you. Anybody on group 1? Anybody would like to say something on group 1? All right, group 2? Group 2, any observations on group 2? Group 2. Remember, group 2 are presenting on the policy infrastructure at the level of the African Union. Group 3. Group 3 in case. Yes, Paul.
Dr. Good evening, and good evening to all my colleagues. First, let me congratulate all the groups for the great presentations. Indeed, most of us have captured something to go on with. Now, in the last group, the 3rd group, where they were talking about some of the challenges of implementing this technology in education. I think they really based much on, if I'm not wrong, on the security of the software and hardware. But I wanted to chip in something about the security in terms of, let me say, some of this security infrastructure are prone to theft and vandalism. So I think that would be a challenge also to implementing some of these technological advancement in schools or in education. Thank you.
Well observed, Paul. Obada?
Well, I think mine, it's not in terms of question, but what I would want to say is just a sign of appraisal. I think I like the flow of the content from the beginning, from UNESCO's hand to the African Union, to the individualization of the concept of ICT, like now that is now in terms of now the real implementation in let's say a country or constituency or in a particular school. I think I like the flow of the content. It has I think I've really learned a lot from the flow and also the organization of the topic. All in all, I want to appreciate the presenters have done a good job.
Thank you very much, Obada. Madia?
Yeah, thank you everyone. Mine is generally, I think we'll go to group 3, and simply because I see some similarities in some of the stuff that we tackled on question 3.2. However, it comes as a comment. I have a feeling that when we guys were reviewing the AU policies, which was 2022, which is just post-COVID, we encounter a lot whenever we talk about digital technologies, the fast pace of development and change. So much so that we at some point may not look at our challenges with the same pace. For example, when we were looking at accessibility, you notice that in Africa alone, 500 million of the people have access to smartphones. So these become opportunities, and that there is a shift between 2022 and 2024. Just as hardware and software is changing, so too is the situation of Africans are also changing. Probably, I have a feeling that were we to review the AU and maybe the UNESCO and all the policies we've done now, you would find a lot of forward movement. Finally, in terms of security, initially, I have observed a lot of, theft of digital hardware, etc., etc. I don't know whether colleagues have also noted with me that as we continue, it becomes even more dangerous to steal hardware because of the digital footprints, the ability to be tracked, and all that. In summary, what I think I'm saying is, even though digital technologies in education are fast changing, and the African context post-COVID, for example, may have been different, the same way rural areas are getting infrastructure at a pace that is equally very high. In Kenya, for example, this element of counties has opened up roads, the electricity last mile has come up, and even solar technology is being adapted really, really well. The competition between the West and China is providing a lot of affordability to some of the digital infrastructure, and the decolonization that folks are having, Africans against the West and China, and needing to express themselves, is localizing a lot of content that is shared with our learners. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Madiang. Anybody would like to give a final comment? One person. Sam?
This is just a question to both you and the rest of the class. Yes. This policy was adopted in 2021. We are now in 2024. If we were to rate its implementation on a scale of 10, where is it today?
We'll be commenting on that. All right, thank you very much, Sam, for that. Now, I think I'll be able to say something about what you've raised, Sam, in my observations. Now, I want to give both general and specific observations to the presentations we've had today. General observations. Now, in your write-up and in your reflections and in your arguments throughout your presentations, especially when you come to do the final write-up, I would like us in our groups to reflect on the concept policy. You know, as remember, this section we are dealing with is looking at the policy infrastructure. So before we look at that policy infrastructure, it would be worthwhile to consider, what do we understand by the conception policy? For instance, policy means what ought to be done. Policy means law. No, policy means law. Policy means a regulation. Policy could mean a procedure. More so, policy would imply, would refer to an ought administrative action. An ought administrative action. This means that if you are looking at a policy at the international framework level, like UNESCO, if you're looking at policy at the African Union, if you're looking at policy at the national level, Kenya in particular, and then we are talking about policy as referring to an ought administrative action. What ought to be done? You see, if we understand policy, if we can have a paragraph or so in our preamble to make sure we are understanding what policy means. Remember, that is part of our master's degree program. So if we are able to understand a clear conception of what policy is, then as we journey, say, on the level of UNESCO's policy framework, on the level of AU's policy framework, and so forth, then we'll be keen not only to raise up the challenges, but as somebody has just observed towards the end of this discussion, I don't know, I can't remember who that was, but we'll be able to raise up what I would call the opportunities. I think that must have been Madian. We'll be able to see what opportunities exist for the success of this policy, so that in our presentation, we will not simply be talking about this is what the policy says and these are what the challenges for the policies, for the policy implementation are, but we'll be keen to see what opportunities exist for us to be able to overcome what, for example, one group called the inhibitors. What opportunities exist for us to be able to actualize the success of the policy? Remember, this one is coming from the point of view, what is policy? Policy is a law. Policy refers to the ought administrative action. So the idea here is, and this is very much in line with what Nyabere has been raising. The issue would be, when you look at this policy inhibitors, challenges as it were, we must be able to move out and be able to say, what can we do for the policy to be realized? Our struggle here would be not just to record the challenges, but our struggle would be what can be done for the policy to be realized. In other words, how do we work towards the success of that policy framework? I think that's really what I'm trying to emphasize. Now, just a few observations across groups. I'll be putting a few observations across groups. Not really to say this is exhaustive, but a few things I'm able to hear because I'm aware, just as it must be Sam Nyabere who was indicating, that I believe what you presented here is a snapshot, but in your written work, more will be put across. For group one, for example, just for example, my inquiry, my interest would be to ask you to try to respond to this question when you are doing your final write-up. What exactly need to be done to push for those, those levels, those policy levels to be actualized? I give you an example, a direct question. Looking at government support as one of the levels, looking at government support as one of the levels. Then the question I'm raising is, what exactly need to be done to push for government support in ICT in education? So that, just as I said in my general observation, it is important to see that government support is one level at which recommendations must be pushed. That's UNESCO talking now. Government support is one level at which, recommendations must be pushed in the realization of digital education. Now, when you look at what is happening around the world, because UNESCO is addressing us all, you'll meet a lot of inhibitions. You'll meet a lot of challenges towards this. That's why we are raising, because policy refers to the ought administrative action, then it is not enough to say this is not being done there, this is being done there. But now we need to reflect outside the article and be able to answer the question, for example. What do we do so that we can be seen to be pushing for government support in ICT? Thinking about this, I've just picked that one, but thinking about this, we are saying, for example, what advocacy can ensure government support for ICT in education is realized? What advocacy? Think about the advocacy that needs to be put in place. In other words, what would be some of the practical indicators that government support is in place? So that the question here is, we are pushing for government support to be there. How will we know in this country, UNESCO is talking to us, how will we know in this country there is sizable government for ICT in education? That's why we put in the question, what would be the indicators that now there is a sizable amount of government support for ICT? Those are things you need to look at. I've picked on government support as one level of recommendation. So could you cascade that to other recommendations? And you see the wealth of reflection that you can put. For task 2, some of these things I'm saying could be repetition, or rather would be things that I know perhaps in your final write-up they exist, but just looking at the presentation you've done. Question would be, you try and make sure that somewhere within your presentation, you're able to help us conceptualize and understand what is an enabler, what is an inhibitor. No? At the level of AU. AU is now looking at identifying remember, AU is concerned, the document is concerned at realizing digital education. The question here would be, AU is concerned with identifying the enablers, identifying of digital education in Africa. Therefore, the question would be, will be able to define the concept of the enablers, the concept of the inhibitors. After we've done that, think about whether we can be able to demonstrate how this enablers and inhibitors exhibit either
That-
they're positive
They are not getting you clear.
You are losing me?
Yes.
Are you getting me now?
Yeah,
I hope
better
you are.
now.
Okay, good. I think I was talking slightly away from the screen. So what I'm saying is, having defined clearly the concept of enablers, the concept of inhibitors, then it would be good for you to try and demonstrate practically how each of these, say, inhibitors, each of these enablers exercise both the negative and the positive influence respectively. What we mean here is, when we define a factor as an enabler, enabler means it is exhibiting a positive influence by promoting digital education in Africa. So the question is, can we be able to demonstrate how each of these enabler exhibits a positive influence by promoting digital education in Africa? If it is an inhibitor, can we be able to demonstrate clearly how this inhibitor exhibits a negative influence by demoting, by undermining digital education in Africa? So you notice the focus here, we try to conceptualize what these enablers, what these inhibitors are, and how they exhibit their practical influence on digital education in Africa. Further to that, there is a need to define each of these enablers, a need to define each of these inhibitors. So defining it, after we've given the general conception of what is an enabler, whatever, then we move to define each of these enabler, each of these inhibitor. For example, I just give an example. Before we can explain what digital divide exactly is as an inhibitor, let us try to explain what it is and illustrate exactly how it inhibits digital education in Africa. So you see, what is digital divide? You see, then can we move on? How can we illustrate exactly how it inhibits digital education in Africa? See? So the same should be able to be applied to all other inhibitors and enablers so that we are able to see this clearly. And then think about what extent, for example, do you think the AU's recommendations to overcome these inhibitors of digital education in Africa is feasible? This is the question that Nyabere, you are bringing up. You know, you notice I'm really pushing the frontier for us to go into the articles that have guided our reflections and reflect outside that article and be able to move to the third order and become a problem solver as a policy student. That's why we are saying, despite what the African Union has said, be it on inhibitors, be it on enablers, the final question is, to what extent do I think the AU's recommendations to overcome inhibitors of digital education in Africa is really feasible? You know, when you answer that question, it is feasible to this extent, it is not feasible to this extent, then you move to the highest order to say, what do I think need to be done to make sure that this policy recommendation is made feasible? Finally, friends, just reflecting on group 3, generally, I picked that you've indicated the challenges, for example, to policy objectives, various challenges. Again, the question as for the other task members would be, now, can you move and demonstrate how do we overcome these challenges? if you like, can you move and demonstrate how we can ensure digital education in Kenya? I think once more again, I'm just making a point and referring to Sam because of the question he raised. When you see Sam, for example, you know, you've indicated that looking at the policy infrastructure in Kenya is dated 2021 and we're in 2024. Your question is, I believe, how is this still relevant in 2024? Now, I want you to turn that question a little bit upside down and ask, we are in 2024. To what extent have we walked the mile to cover what the 2021 policy infrastructure recommended? So that, you know, we can be able to see how far have we gone, and we can be able to answer the question, how far are we behind schedule, as it were. In all this, we want to emphasize across the three groups that can we be able to appeal to practical illustrations in trying to respond to these policy questions. So generally, dear friends, the query is to be able to look at the policy recommendations, be able to look at the feasibility, the challenges that meet this policy recommendation, and then be able to argue with that professional force beyond the horizon and be able to say, this can be done, it's good for us. And if this is good for us and it can be done, this is the frontier that we must push to have this policy recommendation realized. So those are my observations. I'm not very sure whether Madiang's hand is still up. I'm not very sure. Is it still up? Maybe not. Maybe just
sorry, it's a legacy hand. I should lower it. I'm sorry.
Okay, very good. So those are my observations. So if we can be able to look at those, what I'm trying to say in summary, look at the task before you, put the document that is guiding your task a little bit aside now after you've gotten what the task is, and be able to ask yourself that question: what opportunities exist in the realization of this policy framework? If we journey that path, I must say we'll be closer to appreciating and realizing a deeper understanding of the policy infrastructure that guides ICTs in education in Africa toward the realization of digital education all around us. A final comment after I've given my comments, please, in case there is any, before we close our class. All right, that's good. So can I request maybe Paula Mata to close for us with a word of prayer?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you this particular evening, Father, with thanksgiving, dear Father. We thank you for the gift of life you given to us, dear Father. Thank you for the lesson that we had, dear Father, and whatever we've shared, dear Father. Thank you for Daktari, for his patience, and for his knowledge, also sharing knowledge to us, dear Father. We want to commit the lives of those who are represented, family members of in this class, dear Father, that Father, you be take your lives, dear Father, those who are sick amongst us, dear Father, including Ruth, dear Father, who is not feeling, dear Father. We call upon your healing hand, dear Father, to be upon her life, dear Father. We commit this night into your holy hands, dear Father, and as we meet tomorrow and another day for this lesson, dear Father, we continue blessing your name, dear Father. I pray this short prayer, breathing in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, students, and good night.
Good night.